The Obama administration remains on the defense tonight. They're engulfed by 4 simultaneous political scandals. The IRS targeting of conservative groups, secret snooping of AP phone records, the apparent revisions of the now famous Benghazi talking points, and now reports that the Justice Department has lost track of terrorists in their witness protection program. Oh, my goodness. To call it a rough week for the president is an understatement. Let's talk about this. Here now is CNBC contributor and former DNC chair Howard Dean, and we welcome back Sean Spicer, communications director of the Republican Party. Howard Dean, I think one problem here, one consequence is that the president's dream of a Democratic House in 2014 is going up in flames.
Well, I think you probably know better than that. Things can change, turn around on a dime. The Benghazi politics has been pushed by the Republicans for a long time. It has no traction. It doesn't have any now. It never did. It didn't have any before the election. The IRS is probably not going to end up at the president's doorstep either. We're going to find out more about that. We don't know a lot about losing the track of terrorists. My understanding is they didn't actually lose track of them. What they did is fail to put them on the no-fly zone, which I think is serious enough. And we don't also know what the AP stuff is. So I think to call all these things scandals is a little on the silly side. My guess is the president weathers this, and 2 or 3 weeks from now, something else is on the headlines all the time. The big problem here is since the Republicans are doing nothing except voting down health care for the 37th time, there's nothing else to write about.
Well, Sean Spicer is just interesting.
Well, Larry, if I can just look. Larry, if I could just, Governor Dean was a chief executive of the state. He knows very well that you are judged by how you lead and what you get done. And when there is a lack of when all of these things are going on and there's more other smaller issues that are occurring as well, the question has to be asked is where is the leadership? Where does that proverbial buck stop? Is there even a buck? And what's going on? Because right now we have a common thread through all of these that I would suggest to the governor, which is that no one's in charge. No one's taking responsibility. In each one of these cases, it's a bunch of finger pointing saying, I'm not in charge, nothing's going on. And I think that narrative is going around is sort of catching hold with the American people, that there is a serious problem in the administration when it comes to claiming being able to move the ball forward when they can't even tell you where the ball is.
Well, first of all, here's what the problem is. We'll see what the poll numbers show, and I'm sure somebody's going to do a poll in the next 10 days. The fundamental problem is the usual overreaching. When you have people like Senator Inhofe talking about impeachment of the president, that makes the Republicans look foolish, and it takes away their credibility. So you can criticize the president for quote-unquote lack of leadership. I've been in a lot of campaigns. I've never once seen that issue ever work. But the Republicans look like they're the same old Republicans. They're anti-this, anti-that. 37 times they voted down the health care bill. And so they're not a credible alternative right now. So let's see. Well, I mean, I'm perfectly willing to say let's see what the polls say.
But this isn't about with all due respect, Governor. This isn't about winning an election. We had one just a while ago. We don't have another one for 3 years. This is about issues that are important to the American people. Benghazi isn't about scoring political points. It's about making sure that we do the right by our foreign policy. The IRS is about making sure that we don't target our citizens.
Joke. Benghazi is a laughable joke.
With all due respect, Governor, when 4 Americans die serving this country, that's not a joke, sir.
No,
that's not a joke.
The blaming of the president for that is a ridiculous joke. The American people, you've been beating on this for a year. I don't understand why you don't give up on this. Nobody believes that there was a scandal, and
sir,
nobody believes.
There's an opportunity.
The president has released all the evidence
to get asked.
This is ridiculous. This is just silly.
One at a time.
I would just say in each one of these questions, it's not like it's been hanging around for a year. There are serious questions that are being asked about who know
there
what
are no
knew
serious
what when
questions
in each
being
one of
asked
these
about
instances.
Benghazi. None.
But Howard,
that
really?
is a totally made up. Yeah, that's a totally made up nonsense.
Let me just jump in here.
It's very clear what happened with Benghazi. And this is ridiculous.
Governor, I think that with all due respect, they could probably use your services because there's a lot of concern about the timeline, who knew what when talking points were rewritten,
that's all
who rewrote them and why. So
the president has released hundreds of pages of all sorts of things. This is nonsense.
All I'm saying,
this is the reason. The only reason I think. Look, if you guys want to keep talking about Benghazi, I think it's great because it makes the Republicans look like idiots.
No, I have a broader point.
This is the right wing.
With all due respect, the last time I checked, most of the press corps wasn't on our side. So when you're talking about us talking about it, I think the legitimacy of a lot of news organizations who are asking these important questions.
Hang on, Sean. Let me just make one broader point. Governor Dean, I'm going to address it to you. I think you got a problem here, not just with Benghazi. Maybe you're right about Benghazi, maybe you're wrong, okay? But you've got all these things happening at once. The IRS is a hated agency, and its corruption is going to be front-page news. But here's my point. The president keeps saying he didn't know about this stuff. In fact, with respect to the IRS, he said he didn't know about it until he read it in the newspaper. You're getting the impression, Howard, that the president cannot manage the executive branch of the government. And I think that puts him in a very difficult position.
I don't believe that, and I don't think the American people believe that, which is why I said, let's wait for 10 days and see what people think. I think you're wrong. Obviously, this is a big talking point of the RNC. Let's see who's right. I think the American people have more common sense than the inside the Beltway people who keep pushing these silly talking points.
Go ahead, Sean.
Here's the problem with okay, I would just say this. With respect to the IRS, this isn't something that we made up with. They came out and admitted it. And actually almost every hour that goes by, the scope of this scandal widens, both in terms of who was involved in it, who was targeted, because every hour we hear another group and another individual saying, I actually had this happen to me, or here's the letter that was presented to me. And as far as who knew what in the government, we're hearing in the last couple hours that more and more people were notified of this a year ago. This is not something that anyone in the Republican Party made up. The IRS has admitted to knowing this. The question that still exists is who knew what when, how far did it go, why were they doing this? Those are all very legitimate questions. I don't think, frankly, that Governor Dean knows at some point we're going to have a Republican administration, hopefully very soon, and at that point we wouldn't want that government targeting anyone on the left. So I think that this is something that all Americans should be concerned about and hope that we don't have this kind of action from the quote-unquote nonpartisan civil servants.
I agree with that, and I think people are concerned about the IRS behavior, but I don't think it tarnishes the president. I really don't. I mean, this kind of stuff is going on there. IRS has been an abuser for a long time. In fact, they looked at the NAACP for a while. So the fact of the matter is the IRS doesn't always behave the way it should. There are only 2 political appointees in the entire IRS. And I think that
but Governor, let me ask you a question, in all seriousness, that when you have folks in the administration and top Democrats, including, Senator Schumer and Senator Baucus, writing letters to the IRS where they're talking about these groups not being legitimate, where high-ranking folks in your party are saying that they are illegitimate, that they are, quote, terrorists, that they are teabaggers, there is clearly a sense that I believe can occur where people say, see, we're being told to go after these people because they're not legitimate. We're doing right by the leaders of our... So
I disagree with that.
I think those are serious questions.
I think the fundamental problem is that when Citizens United was passed and opened the door for all this nonsense and chicanery, which is what it is, in my opinion, on both sides, the rules became very unclear. And I think it was very ill-advised of the IRS to do what they did. I don't think, unlike President Nixon, who did legitimately from the White House target groups he disagreed with, that is not what's going on here. This is an incompetence. It's foolishness. A whole lot of people ought to be fired, but I don't think this is a reflection on the White House at all.
But it only happened on one side, Governor. It didn't happen. They weren't targeting all groups. They were targeting only conservative groups.
I agree, and I think that was wrong.
They had to have gotten this idea from somewhere.
I think that was wrong.
And with all due respect, we don't know. But sir, with all due respect, you don't know where it ends because we haven't answered those questions.
What we learned today, and Governor Dean, you may be right. Sean, you may be right. But what we learned today is that the Treasury Department, the Deputy Secretary of the Treasury, was informed over a year ago about the Inspector General's audit of the targeting. That's what we learned today. Now, the question is, those are all Obama appointees. The question is, do they jump fence to the White House, or does it stay inside the Treasury and the IRS? That is going to be a huge issue.
Person, if that turns out to be true, Larry, they have to leave.
I understand. We're going to have a discussion about this. It's going to be one of the biggest things that popped out of the hearings today. Anyway, thanks to Governor Howard Dean and Sean Spicer of the RNC.